While Tennessee quickly acted upon the Reconstruction olive branch that was being offered by the Union, it still had a few growing pains. Railroads and telegraph wires had to be reconstructed, businesses and homes had to be rebuilt, and emotional wounds from the war needed to heal. We will briefly go through this complex time with our nation's history through the letters of Amanda C. Ewell. Then we will jump into the newspaper articles about Dyer Station residents from 1872 to 1903. In our next video, we will cover the reconstruction of buildings and businesses and the construction of new businesses and the organization of community as the town of Dyer Station continues to recover from the Civil War. All aboard the Kentucky-Tennessee Living Time Machine. Please fasten your seatbelts and keep your arms and legs inside of the vehicle at all times. But to get going, we need your help. We still need to fire up that time machine to transport us. Please help us by clicking on the like, subscribe, and bell notification buttons down below. Not only does this fire up the time machine, but it convinces YouTube that we need a bigger time machine to reach more people who love history as much as you do. Now, back to our story. Reconstruction. Pretty early on in the Civil War, the state of Tennessee had been occupied by Union forces, even though the state had been accepted into the Confederate United States of America. In order to gain their voting rights back, those that had not supported the Union during the Civil War had to swear an allegiance to the United States. Many people felt that this was a betrayal to their fallen fellow loved ones and friends and refused to do this. However, because Tennessee was quick to bow to the concession to the Union, they were spared a lot of humiliation that the rest of the South had to endure. According to the book, A History of Dyer, Tennessee Community, several letters were written by Amanda C. Ewell. The letters give a wonderful insight as to what was happening in Dyer Station at that time. During the war, she had stayed in Belfast, Tennessee, while her husband fought for the Confederacy. The first letter describes her return home to Dyer Station. In her July 15, 1865 letter, she describes many of the roads as being unpassable by wagon. There was very little food for people and animals. Many of the houses along her journey were burned or destroyed. Her fields at her home were spared a lot of destruction. In her October 10, 1865 letter, she writes that there was a great deal of illness in the area. The telegraph wires and broken train tracks had now been replaced, and how people would go to the tracks to watch the train cars carrying Union soldiers and African Americans pass through the town. By October 29, 1865, life for Sally seems to be returning to normal, as she states that she had almost forgotten that there was even a war. She states that everyone is now focused on making money and that peace had returned to the area. In the newspaper. The following are stories that hit various newspapers across Tennessee concerning Dyer Station during that time. While this is not all of them, these are the stories that were found in multiple newspapers. In next week's video, we will be covering the different organizations, churches, and businesses that began to grow up in the area of 1880 and 1890. This part of our story will not be in our usual story format. We have decided the best way to handle this is to give the information as stated in the newspapers of the time as a sort of time capsule of the period. Whig and Tribune, August 10, 1872. Railroad collision, full particulars. Trains number 1 and 2 of the Mobile and Ohio Railroad collided on the morning of the 7th, half a mile north of Dyer Station at 9:47 a.m. The cause of the collision was this. On the morning of the 7th, the Down Express train, for some cause, got delayed and did not make the meeting point, Dyer Station, on time. The up train arrived at the meeting point on time, waited 30 minutes for the Down Express. Not arriving in time, Conductor Bright, governed by the old rule of the road, viz., when we take the southbound passenger train fails to make the meeting point on her allotted time, the northbound passenger train has a right to the road, proceeded north. In connection with the last scheduled issued, there was also a circular published giving the express train, whether on time or out of time, all rights to the road against opposing trains. Mr. Bright, having been off the main line for 2 months, forgot about this circular, and governed himself by the rules and regulations printed out on the schedule. Considerable damage was done to both engines. Two of the coaches telescoping made a complete wreck. All of the rest of the coaches damaged more or less. Some 6 or 8 passengers were hurt, none seriously, except an African American who had both legs crushed, which probably would have been amputated. Mr. Bright has been connected with the Mobile and Ohio Road as conductor nearly 11 years, and this is the first time that he has met with any serious trouble. He is a high-toned gentleman and enjoys the confidence of this community. The Nashville Union and American, January 12, 1875. Some few months ago, a young fellow named Street went into the neighborhoods of Dyer Station, Gibson County, and entered a country school, a student. It was soon discovered that he had ample means, as he displayed to his associates $20 and $50 bills on diverse occasions. He was never known to have less than a $20 bill when he wished to make purchases to a small amount. A few days since, an officer from Obion County went to Dyer Station in pursuit of Street, stating that he had been passing counterfeit money. But Street just left. Constable Thomas joined the Obion officer, and the chase was continued without result. Doubtless many of his counterfeit bills are now in the county. Our informant says that Street is still at large, but it is hoped that he will soon be captured. The Milan Exchange, May 2nd, 1878. One day last week, while Esquire A. H. Taylor was returning home from Dyer Station, his horse, which was attached to a buggy, got unmanageable and ran away with him at breakneck speed, and coming in collision with a tree, completely demolishing the buggy, and threw Esquire Taylor out with such force as to inflict injuries which were thought up to a few days since would prove fatal. The horse was thrown into the ground, and received injuries from which he has since gone blind. The Milan Exchange, July 4th, 1878. The residence of Mr. Street, near Dyer Station, was burned on Monday night of last week. Nearly all of the contents were destroyed. The Milan Exchange, August 15th, 1878. A terrible accident occurred near Dyer Station last Wednesday, resulting in the death of a son of Mr. Bry Pope. He was on his way to the mill with a saw log when a team became frightened, ran down the embankment, throwing the log across his body. He was terribly mangled, from the effects of which he died last night. The Milan Exchange, October 2nd, 1879. County News. Dyer Station ships fowls and cattle to New Orleans. Snoddy and Briggs' store was robbed at Dyer Station a few nights since. Loss about $100. The Milan Exchange, May 6, 1882. Zach Williams shot William Roberts in a difficulty at Dyer Station last week. He was arrested, but made his escape afterward. Roberts was in critical condition at last accounts. The Milan Exchange, June 17, 1882. Dr. W. T. Buck, one of the best and most successful physicians of the county, will remove to Dyer Station to practice his chosen profession. He is an able physician, and we heartily recommend him to those in need of assistance of a physician. We are sorry to lose him. Albert and Sam Fanning, prominent and successful cotton growers of this vicinity, have just returned from a flying trip to Dyer Station, Greenfield, and other places of that section. Each succeeded in purchasing a nice little farm near Dyer Station, and it seems that we are going to witness an extensive exodus of cotton growers from our little county. The Milan Exchange, October 14, 1882. Rutherford Courier. Last Monday at Dyer Station, a difficulty between Z.N. Williams and Mr. Roberts, which resulted in the former shooting the latter in the side with a pistol, inflicting a serious, if not fatal, wound. The Milan Exchange, March 26, 1887. From the Trenton Mirror. Last Saturday night, a wreck happened on the M&O road between this place and Dyer Station. A freight train, while going at full speed, was thrown from the track by a cow. The engine was considerably damaged. Several boxcars were totally shattered. Fortunate as it was, no one was hurt in the disaster. The Milan Exchange, May 14, 1887. Trenton Herald. On Tuesday night of last week at Dyer Station, while a number of small boys about the village were playing as usual about the depot, the little son of Mr. O. F. Dozer was badly hurt by the baggage car running over him, breaking his collarbone. The Milan Exchange, October 1st, 1887. On the 3rd instance, near Dyer Station, while Mr. Davison was going to a neighbor's house, having his family and a Miss Becton in the buggy with him, the horse became frightened and backed off into a ditch, falling upon the buggy and passengers, completely demolishing the buggy, killing itself and bruising Miss Becton, perhaps fatally. The balance of the crew were not seriously damaged. The Commercial, August 21st, 1903. Shot dead in the road. Last Monday evening, 3 miles north of Trenton, Elijah Harrison was found dead in the Trenton and Dyer Station Road about 7 o'clock, with a pistol wound in the left side. A coroner's jury was summoned, Esquire H. C. Pierce presiding, and the following state of facts was developed. Elijah Harrison had been a postmaster at Dyer Station for some years past, and up to last winter and fall, when he was removed. He had made threats before the day of the killing against all concerned in having him removed, and on that day said in Trenton that he intended cursing out the whole set, and mentioned the name of H. J. Markham as one of those he intended cursing out. Late in the evening, Harrison left town on horseback, and is supposed to have stopped on the road where the killing took place, and hitched his horse, and then went to meet Markham as he came up. And he was found about 50 yards from his horse, back towards Trenton, and his hat was found midway between his horse and his body. Harrison was found with an open knife in his pocket, with the point down. Suspicion pointed at once at Markham. He left Trenton with the same plow handles he had brought into town, was overtaken by a man named Kelly, who took him in his buggy until their roads separated, about half a mile from the place where Harrison was found dead. A gentleman living near the place of the killing heard some loud talking, and soon afterwards heard a pistol shot. He went down the road and saw a man he didn't know walking rapidly away with plow handles on his shoulders. Markham has since given himself up, but we have not heard the result of the trial. Thank you. We at Kentucky, Tennessee Living would like to thank you for watching our video series on the history of Dyer, Tennessee. Don't forget to hit that like button, as the more likes we receive, the more likely YouTube is to suggest our videos to other viewers. Also, to receive notice when we upload a new video, be sure to subscribe and click the bell notifications. We thank you for continuing to support Kentucky, Tennessee Living as we are discovering the mysteries of Tennessee history.